project that inspired me. So I made connections with Rebecca Ballo, who was a historic preservation person at Montgomery County Planning, and she and John Lieberts, who is a historian on that project, came to my community. We invited them to my community association meeting. They talked about the project, and I decided, well, I'm going to research my own house deed to see if there's a racial covenant. I'm sorry, I don't know the name. You were featured in the...
Oh, Karen.
Karen.
Yeah.
I'm talking about redlining. So all of these methods of discriminating against Black people primarily, other groups as well, included racial covenants. And a lot of the Montgomery County mapping segregation project focused on racial covenants. They excluded certain people from certain neighborhoods. And they were legal when they were written into these deeds. So I did research on my own house. Horrified, found my house was built in 1946, but the property itself had a racial covenant from 1932. I'd never seen it. So I was interested in this subject and thought, well, although it's illegal now and unenforceable, I didn't want it in a permanent record. It just made me really sick to think this was part of my house's history. So I got together with another person from MoCoLMP named John Haga, who's not here today. He was on the History and Exhibits Committee, which I think no longer actually exists as a committee. We're both very interested in this. He also researched his own house. And we're a committee of two. We decided, okay, we're gonna find out more about this. We're not experts. We just wanted to find out for ourselves. And when we both found out there were racially restrictive covenants on our own houses, we said, okay, what can we do to educate people? So we got together with Montgomery History, and with Matt Gagel, who works there, we found a speaker. We decided we were going to organize a webinar with Montgomery History to talk about the whole issue of housing discrimination and how racial covenants fit into that, redlining, and everything else. So we found a woman named Paige Glotzer. She's a historian, university professor in Florida. And in November of 2024, this is her book, she gave this wonderful webinar. I don't think it's available anymore through Montgomery History. I think they only make them available for a month. It was a really great talk, and the book is really great. She studied at Hopkins, and her research, I think, was primarily in Baltimore, but she talked about the national scene, and also she talked about Montgomery County. And then John and I decided, following the webinar, we wanted to do a workshop. So we had a workshop. It was a MoCoLMP workshop at Silver Spring Library in February of this year. And John created a slideshow, and we took people step by step through the process of researching the chain of title, it's called. It's all available, it's all online. It's the Maryland State Land Records. You can look up your own house. And you might be pleasantly surprised or horrified to find that there. So, yeah, this was the mapping segregation project map that the county published. And they looked at neighborhoods inside the Beltway. They're trying to expand it, I think, but they didn't get refunded. And now with the county having no money, I don't know what's going to happen with the project. But if you'll go to the next slide. This is my house deed, and you can't read it, but that's the racial covenant that I found when I was doing my research. And if you go to the next slide, this is what John found. I live in Silver Spring, he lives in Bethesda. What what one can do, if you find a racially restrictive covenant on your deed, there are 2 forms you get from the county. You photocopy the pages that you found from the Maryland land records, and you cross out the offensive language. You don't want to obliterate it, we don't white it out, this is part of history, we want it to remain. But now if anyone goes to my record, my house, or John's record, they'll see that's been crossed out. And we just felt that it was really important. Even though, like I said, it's not legal, it's not enforceable, but they're still there, and there's thousands and thousands of these things. So, one final thing I want to say is that I'm not sure where we're going to go with this. We had 25 people sign up, and only 5 actually showed for the workshop. It was a month after Trump's inauguration, and we were feeling probably everybody was just overwhelmed. And this is more a symbolic thing, although it's very meaningful. I think people were just feeling assaulted by everything that was happening. So my personal thought is, we could do more of these workshops, and there's a man in Tacoma Park who does these around Tacoma Park also. He's done a really great job, and he focuses strictly on Tacoma Park.
What's his name?
What's his name? That helped me.
Jim Douglas?
Jim Douglas, thank you. Jim Douglas. So if you want to do your own research, go to Historic Tacoma. And Jim Douglas has laid out the process. And you can do it on your own at home, that's what I did. And sometimes it's very straightforward, sometimes it's tricky. But a lot of times you can just do it, you get the hang of it after a while. Anyway, my thought was the University of Minnesota has a big project that they started. It's called the Mapping Prejudice Project, and you can also go to that website. They take volunteers from all over the country who look at pages that they've already designated as possibly having a racially restrictive covenant. They're using AI to go through thousands of these. And it's not just Minnesota, they're working with other states, and they're actually working with the 2 people in DC who did a mapping segregation project in DC. So my thought is, this is so huge, there's so many of them, maybe we could get the University of Maryland to take this on. It's like the whole state needs to do this and have all of these covenants, crossed out. And it's going to be hard to get individual people to do their own research. It can be done, I think, in a massive way if we can get some institution to take it on. Do you have a question?
Well, my question is, was there a year in which racial covenants became illegal, therefore in a newer house it wouldn't even appear?
Yeah, it was 1960, something in the 60s. So, yeah, if you have a house that's newer than that, it's not going to be an issue. And I think before that, like I said, I'm not a historian and I'm not an expert in this. You can find a lot of information about that online.
Did the language say something like, this property cannot be purchased by someone whose life expectancy is less? I in 1978, I bought a house on Boundary Avenue. And I didn't see that at the time. Actually, when I was getting ready to get rid of it, I started looking at all that paper, because I was just overwhelmed by just trying to buy the house. That I just had it stuck away. But
That's often the language they use. Anyone whose life expectancy is less than the Caucasian race.
Right.
But they also, mine said, no one of Negro descent may purchase this property.
And I think, not mine, but I've heard of people where, Jews cannot.
Right. There were other restrictions. Almost all of them were against black people. 100% I think were against black people in Montgomery County. 25% were against Jews. Many fewer, but a lot of them. And then there were other groups as well, Albanians, just weird things.